Guys, tough trip to Pullman. Had our chances, and actually made some plays at the end to potentially win the game, but they didn't count, so all was for naught. But guys played hard. They're a good football team. They obviously had success throwing the ball. We had success running the ball, and in the final analysis, they made a play or two more than we did. And that was that. It was a tight game all the way to the end, and thought we had good plans coming in. I was pleased with the way the offense played to our strengths. Ran the football and were physical, had a physical presence to us. Defensively, made an error. Too much three-man rush. Should have, in retrospect, in hindsight, should have turned our four guys loose a little bit more up front and not worried about the exotic coverages and that type of thing. We still held them to 12 points less than their scoring average, but not enough. We needed to do a little better job, and offensively we needed to come up with one more score, which we weren't able to do. But life goes on. You got Stanford coming this week. On the road, good football team coming off a loss to Notre Dame, so they're reeling a little bit as well, and that's where we're at. So, questions?
Traditionally, Utah's had a lot of success against Stanford. What about that matchup has played to the strengths of the Utes?
Well, we're both traditionally physical teams and run-oriented teams, and that's certainly the case this year. With them, they're a run-first team. I guess Love is questionable, but this week as far as the status, but you never worry about that. Everybody's got guys that are hurt, so it's not really a big factor. They're not going to change dramatically who they are because of that. They're going to do what they do, and so I think that's the reason why is we've just been able to stand toe-to-toe and slug it out with them, and that's probably as good an answer I can give you there.
Since you've been in this conference, especially the last few years, it seemed like there were so many games that just come down to a play or two, and the final margin ends up being a one-score margin, and either you're on the good side or you're on the bad side. So the fine line between winning and losing isn't that great. Could you address, generally speaking, just how difficult it is to win conference games in this conference?
Very difficult, and it's a balanced league. It seems like maybe this year more than ever, although Washington, maybe is the lone team at the top that's maybe the team that is the dominant team, but yeah, it's every week is you got to bring your A game and you got to be ready to play, and as you mentioned, it comes down to a play or two, and sometimes we're on the right side of that, sometimes not. Obviously, that's I don't know anyone that's always be on the right side of that, but it just speaks to the league's balance, and I don't know what else to say other than it's you get 9 conference games, and every week is a big challenge.
How did you guys feel Tyler Huntley played against Washington State?
He ran the ball for over 100 yards, exclusive of sacks. And when he did run the football, you got to obviously you can't discount the sacks because they were there, which took off from the total yardage that he was able to rush for. But 12 to 20, 60%. We probably needed more production out of the throw game, and that was maybe the thing that we were lacking is we knew we wanted to come in and establish Zach Moss, which we did, 30 carries for over 100 yards, but we needed to get a little bit more going in the throw game, and then there, conversely, when I talked about their throw game, it was the play that really did us in was the 89-yarder, there at the end, or towards the end. That was the play that was the ultimately the difference in the game. But as far as Tyler, he took care of the football. We didn't turn it over one time, which will always give us a chance to win if we protect the football like that. And he did a good job of that.
This was obviously the biggest test for the secondary against such a prolific passing offense. How would you think they did outside of that 89-yarder?
Well, if you take that away, which you can't do, then pretty darn good. But as it was, they went for over 400, which is their average, 400, just over 400. I think we had 440 or something like that. So just again, if I had it to do over again, would have schematically done things a little bit different and changed things up, which would have gave us a better chance. So as coaches, we needed to do a better job of just scheming to those guys. But no matter how you scheme, they got answers. It's kind of like Air Force. No matter what you do, they've got answers. They've seen that before and been there, done that, and they'll have their way to counter what you're doing. But when you look at what we did throughout the game, and when we finally adjusted and started going to more four-man rush, we had more success. Just being who we are, more of who we are instead of trying to get cute.
Do you think there's a difference in the run game production? Well, especially Zach Moss's production when the quarterback is under center versus in a shotgun?
There's probably not I know there's not a big enough body of work yet to make that determination, but I think going under center has helped us this year and added to what we're doing, and we've got the boot game off of that, the play action game that has been fairly productive, not wildly productive, but it's given us some things there.
What was the difference in the second half with the run game? Was it play calling? Was it just the looks that Washington State was giving you?
We just weren't as productive in the second half, and the same with them. I mean, we scored 3, they scored 7 in the second half after quite a bit of scoring in the first half. So both offenses flourished in the first half and were more held at bay in the second half. And so I don't feel like we deviated from the game plan. We kept feeding Zach. We stuck to the plan and just didn't get as much going. And that's that.
To follow up on that, did Washington State's defense make any significant adjustment?
No, there was no. They played very basic the entire game and did a good job. They play hard and they got undersized guys up front. They slant and move around quite a bit. I think we did a decent job hitting movement, rushed for over 200 yards, and typically when we rush for over 200 yards, we win, but not this week.
Along those lines, how did Nick Ford play at center, and do I take it that Lowe is not out for the season?
Lowe is not out for the season, thankfully. Nick Ford came in and did a pretty good job at center. Really no major breakdowns. Everyone's got room for improvement. His pads are too high. There's some things that we got to correct, but came in and got the ball snapped, which is the first step, getting the ball to the quarterback clean, and did for the second week in a row, filled in nicely. Had filled in at right tackle the week before, or 2 weeks before, and filled in at center last week. I know, the Stairmaster is waiting. Sir. Come on.
What's a Stairmaster?
Sorry. First thing that's made me laugh in a long time.
You mentioned earlier about the defense not getting cute, I think is the words you used. Can that apply to the offense as well? Do you guys need to get back to doing what you could do best, and that's QB run and on offense and incorporate that, running the ball more, and then same with defense?
Well, I think we did do that this game. That's why I alluded to the fact that we're more pleased with we had more of an identity and playing to our strengths offensively and what we're, Zach Moss is one of our best players. And Tyler Huntley's one of our best runners. He's a good thrower as well. But I think we did gravitate towards that after straying from that for a little bit. And so I think that was more who we are.
Kyle, is there a pivot point with so many tough games to come that you can utilize as a coach to sort of a rallying cry?
A pivot point. Define that a little bit more for me. What you're looking for?
Is there, after losing 2 conference games and so many yet to come, does the team get down a little bit, or what?
Certainly. I hope not. I mean, this team has got a bunch of tough guys. We got high character guys that are tough guys that work hard. And so, we're still early in the season. We're only 4 games in. We've dropped a couple conference games, and Washington's a heck of a football team. Washington State is, they're a good team as well. As we talked about earlier, every team is good that we play. But it's too early to, in my estimation, to have any signs of that show up or anything. We just back, no matter what happens on Saturday, you come back on Monday and you got to be ready to go and get ready for the next opponent. And my guess is these guys will handle that very well.
Last year conference-wide, teams that had to go back-to-back on the road were terrible, just terrible results in the second game. Is there anything you can do when you have all that travel to give your team a little bit of a fighting chance?
Well, I didn't think we were terrible, Just as far as the win-loss record, yeah, it's you certainly would rather be at home than away, but as I've said numerous times, that there's no control on the schedule, and so you're gonna have, no matter how you slice it, you're gonna have some back-to-back road games. I don't think anybody goes home away. I don't think. I haven't studied everyone's schedule, but it certainly compounds your problems when you're playing tough teams and they're on the road. So, but you got to just deal with what's out there, what's in front of you.
In years past, you've said that you start to understand who your team really is after week 4 or week 5. Are you starting to understand who your team is and kind of where you can improve or where the weaknesses are?
Certainly, yep. And defensively, I think we're very talented and we're doing some good things. Special teams, I think we're starting to get on track. Just unfortunately, the Covey punt return was for naught because the ref thought he saw something. So I think we're figuring out what direction we're going. And offensively, like I said, and Zach Moss, in fairness, was banged up until this week. He's finally approaching where he's back to 100%. So you got to work with what you got, and if a guy's not available and not ready to shoulder a 30 carry load, then you can't do that. And so, but yeah, I think the short answer is yeah.
Speaking of the penalties, the 4th and 5, was it a false start, and was that play
Yeah,
blown
they said
dead?
it was a false start and blown dead. The one Zach Moss did his thing and made a great move and converted for a first down. That was believed to be a false start. Yeah.
Any other takeaways from the film study of those key penalties?
Just that we got to find a way to get it cleaned up, and penalties. Certain penalties, holding, they can be called every snap. It's just oftentimes it's just fortune or misfortune when they call them, because some penalties are far more damaging than others depending on the result of the play, and so you just got to try to be better.
Armand Shine had some good runs in that first
Sure
half,
did.
but didn't really see much of him for the rest of the game. Where are you seeing him right now in the rotation?
He's earning more and more playing time, and he did. He made the most he's played and the most carries he's got, and still not very many, but he gave us some good carries, some good solid runs, and you earn your reps in this program. You're not going to be given anything, which, not that other programs don't do the same thing, but Armand is starting to emerge, and we hope he stays on that trajectory. It's up to him to determine if he's going to or not.
One of the better games by the receivers, no drops, a matter of concentration?
Yeah, partly, and simplifying some things, and thought the receivers were playing fast and not thinking, and running crisp routes, and they gave us some good stuff, and that was good to see. And that needs to continue throughout the course of the season.
Now that you're at the 4-game mark, do you have clarity on kind of where you're going with some of the redshirt potential?
A little more clarity, and there's only a handful of guys, maybe half a dozen, that are in the boat or in the mode of do we guard against playing them in 5 games or not. And so, yeah, and next week it'll become even much clearer when we hit that 5th game, and then we have a chart that we track, and obviously when you hit the 5th game, that's the point of no return. So yes, but we're not closing in on that point, because most of those 6 guys that I'm talking about have played very little so far. So we're not don't have any real decisions to make just yet as far as that goes.
Stanford's clearly a run-first team. Depending on if Bryce Love plays, KJ Costello may have to throw the ball more. What's your evaluation of him?
Well, he's a good quarterback, and he does what they need him to do very well. But like I said, I don't believe they are who they've been for many years. And I don't think if Bryce Love is not available, that they'll change dramatically. They still got very capable backs, and they've been doing their thing for, very similarly for a lot of years. And so maybe a tad more throws, but not. I don't think it's going to be a wholesale change in what they do.
Is their receiver Arcega-Whiteside, is he a better deep threat than they've had?
He's really good. He's particularly a red zone threat. He's got long arms. He's 6'3", but his wingspan looks like it's a 7-foot wingspan. I mean, he's a guy that'll body you and shield you from the ball and make it very difficult to cover. And he does have good speed as well, but he's an outstanding receiver. He's a tough matchup for anybody.
Kyle, at the 1/3 mark, can you just kind of evaluate offense, defense, special teams, where you're at this point?
Yeah, defense, like I said, we've been doing some good things. Our numbers are pretty good. Don't put a lot of stock in it yet because there's still a lot of football left to play, but it gives us an idea of what we've done so far. I think we're starting to get our identity offensively and hone in on who we are there, and we still got to be more productive. You know, to beat a team like Washington State, typically you're going to have to score 30 points. That was my feeling going in, and we were just shy of that. And then special teams, after an abysmal start, we're starting to pick up a little bit of steam. What's a Stairmaster? Okay.